going to start with audio from Guacamelee.
Okay, that works.
Did it post?
It didn't post, but I can set it live myself.
There it goes. It posted. Oh, you posted it.
I posted it.
All right. You gonna?
I did it.
Are we gonna? Should I start the game right away? Or are we gonna take time to appreciate the amazing intro music to this game? Or are you just gonna explain what we're doing here?
I don't know. What do you want to do?
You're the host with the most, my friend.
How do you feel like doing this?
You know what? I'm just gonna start the game. We're here playing Chrono Cross.
You're just gonna start it just like that? I have a whole intro typed out.
Oh, you did? Well, say it.
Gosh.
Say it. Hurry up.
What?
Before the music starts.
All right. Let's do it. Hello and welcome to the pilot episode of the Player One Podcast's Review, a Patreon-funded look back at the games we reviewed when we were not podcast idols, but quote-unquote video game journalists. I'm your host and former news editor at Electronic Gaming Monthly magazine, Chris Johnston, and for this inaugural test episode, I am joined by my good friend, co-host, and co-worker back in the year 2000 on EGM, Mr. Greg Sewart.
Hello, hello. Reviews editor back then, by the way.
Reviews editor.
No, actually, during this issue, it was previews editor.
Oh, okay. Okay. And today we're going to talk about Chrono Cross, the game that you robbed a platinum award from.
I did.
It almost got to be the I think only RPG, or at the time it was going to be the first RPG to get the platinum.
Oh, was it? I don't remember.
You said no. You said no. You robbed it.
Enough of that. And I think you have the issue in front of you, and if you
I do.
If you want to flip to the review section intro, you'll notice our good friend Mark McDonald, who was the reviews editor at the time, made a special point of calling me out and explaining that to all of our readers, which I'm sure helped.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Game of the Month.
Yeah, see?
Yeah. Narrowly missed the coveted EGM Platinum Award by 0.5. Send hate mail to Greg_Sewart at ziffdavis.com.
And they did.
Yeah, what was the backlash?
The backlash was huge. This music is great, by the way. We're just going to sit here and appreciate this for a second.
I can't hear any of it.
I know, but the listeners can, and that's what's important.
Okay. That's good. This is some great early 2000s CG, too.
It really was. And I'm sorry, I apologize to everyone who's watching that this is playing at 16:9. I'm playing this on a PS3, and I do not know how to fix that.
It's perfectly fine.
The music in this intro is so incredible.
Yasunori Mitsuda doing the music.
These are Toriyama character designs, weren't they?
I don't know if this one was.
I thought it was.
I don't think
There's definite influence.
Yeah. As the main character's name Serge or Sergey?
Serge.
Serge, okay. Wasn't sure.
All right, so
I never played this game.
Let's keep talking about this. So the backlash was huge, by the way, and I kind of wish that I'd had some time to go find some subsequent issues of EGM because
I found them.
They were okay because the letters section for a while. Who was it who did our letters section? Jim. Was his name Jim? Anyway,
was it Dudlack?
It was Dudlack after a while, but before that, because I don't know if Dudlack was here at this point.
Okay.
But anyway,
you're right.
Yeah, really loved posting letters that would mention the fact that I had given this game a 9.5, by the way.
A 9.5. That is a very good score.
Yes.
I should say. But how about I read your review?
All right, you do that while I set up the game.
Okay, let's do that. All right. Square may have become its own worst enemy. As it stands, this is one RPG that could steal Final Fantasy IX's thunder later this year. Chrono Cross is a masterpiece, plain and simple. The game introduces you to a world with two possible futures, both tragic in their own way. The result is a superb storyline weaved around different time periods and fates. I particularly like the unique battle system in Chrono Cross. There is no magic, but rather the ability to use different colored elementals once each during any fight. Opposite colors are more effective against one another, as are people with opposite innate colors. Of course, people who are innately red do best with red elementals, etc. On top of that is the, quote, field effect during battle. As elementals are used, the field becomes endowed with the same color. Turn the entire field a certain color, and like-colored elementals are more effective, opposite colors less. Wow, that's confusing.
That is, I don't remember any of that, but okay.
That's a lot of explanation about how the game plays.
Was this a full-page review?
This is a full page, yes.
Okay, all right. That makes a little more sense. Because I was going to say, I wasted a lot of time on the...
You really did.
Yeah.
Where was I? Okay, it all seems confusing at first, but after a couple of hours becomes intuitive, proving that games don't have to be as cumbersome as Vagrant's Story or Final Fantasy VIII. That's hilarious, calling these games cumbersome at this point. To have depth. Graphically, the best thing I can say about Chrono Cross is that we ran it on a PS2 with texture smoothing on, and the characters looked no better than before. That in itself should tell you how good the models and colors are. What difference does that make?
Well, that was the big thing, right? PS2 smoothing. To say that there wasn't a huge difference when you ran it on PS2 smoothing meant to say that the game looks incredible for a PlayStation 1 game. That's all.
Okay.
Why you gotta throw the shade?
Don't know why that would make a difference. Anyway, and like Vagrant Story, true completists will find themselves playing Chrono Cross over and over again to unlock all of its secrets.
Fun little tidbit about Vagrant Story. That was one of the last strategies I did for Expert Gamer before I moved over to EGM, and I slept under my desk for like a week.
Oh, right.
Strategy. I'm going to change the controller to analog mode. Now we can... Oh, God, this is one of those games that you have to hold a button to run. Is it?
Of course.
Oh, God, which button? There we go. Boy, don't miss this.
All right, so you gave it a 9.5.
I did.
The other two reviewers were Mark and Sam, and they both gave it 10s.
Sam never even played it.
Are you sure about that?
I would argue that yeah, there's a chance he didn't play it.
I don't know about that. You want me to read their text as well?
Let's do it.
Do that? Okay. This is from Mark, who is, of course, Mark McDonald, Mark MacD on Twitter. Says, yes, I barely played the original Chrono Trigger, and yes, I'm ashamed, but the fact is you don't need to in order to fully enjoy Chrono Cross. There just isn't a weak link to this game. There just isn't a weak link to it. Okay. The translation is top-notch, complete with events and humor. The sound effects are crisp and visceral, and the music inspired, and the battle system totally unique, strategic, and never cumbersome. In a word, genius. Graphically, no game looks like it. Not only is every location, character, and monster lovingly rendered and expertly textured, but the whole game has a bright, colorful style that makes me notice how drab and cold even some of my favorite RPGs have been.
I have no idea what I'm doing with this, Merc. This battle system. But I do love Surge's weapon.
What is it?
Okay, it's just like this
sickle.
Yeah, like a double-ended sickle.
That's kind of cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Huh. Let's read Sam's. As an ardent fan of the original Chrono Trigger, it's my favorite RPG of all time, I had nothing but the very highest expectations for Chrono Cross, so it shouldn't be taken lightly when I say that the game completely blew me away. Chrono Cross is beyond incredible. The graphics, stellar. The best I've seen in an RPG so far. The music, one of the finest game compositions ever. The gameplay, never before have I played an RPG as deep as this. There is just so much to do. The elements system and everything involved with it is pure genius. Wow, that's the second time we've heard the word genius in here. Next to the original
the review.
possible. Next to the original, Chrono Cross now stands as my favorite RPG of all time. EGM readers buy this game.
Favorite RPG of all time.
Yeah, and it got a 9 for visuals, a 10 for sound, 9 for ingenuity, and 8 for replay.
Those little scores were always such bull.
I know.
So interesting. I like to see that when I finished that battle, it said like whatever extra, I don't know what it was, whatever extra doodads I had there could be used to heal the party, or I could use consumables to heal the party automatically, or I could use a mixture of both. That's kind of a nice touch.
I like that. I like that. All right, well, let's read one of the letters that was printed in EGM after your review hit. And this one is titled, Reader Angered Over Good Screenshot. It says, I can't believe you guys. With your word, you say Chrono Cross is an incredible game with an excellent story. That part I don't deny. But with your screenshot, you blew the best part of the story.
Oh,
the part
right.
Where a switch
Yes.
takes place by showing that you play Lynx and Zoa and Karsh, all enemies later in the game. I won't reveal more because I could easily be called a hypocrite by revealing the story, but you effers at EGM who are reading this know what I mean. I just played that part in the game, and I pretty much could tell what would happen because of your damn picture. You should at least apologize to all of us who are screwed by your mistake, and please pay more effing attention to your work. Holy S.
And that guy was throwing around the F-bombs.
He really was, and here's the response to it. We always take the best picks possible, and if they happen to show a key part of the game, then so be it. This merely proves our dedication to our craft.
Wow, that is such a
terrible
answer.
I know. And that we make our decisions on a game after an exhaustive amount of playing time. Yeah. I actually did that in the Donkey Kong 64 review. I did a picture, also the big screenshot in that review of the final boss.
Nobody cared about Donkey Kong 64,
and no one cared.
So this is one of definitely in the vein of like Final Fantasy 7 and 8, where the background. You see the backgrounds here are all. Well, I guess they're rendered. They look kind of hand drawn, to be honest.
Yeah.
But they're clearly like
they're rendered, but
backgrounds.
It's like a matte painting with a 3D rendered scene.
I don't know where I'm supposed to go here.
I
just turned off something. I don't know how far we're going to get in an hour.
This is really just supposed to be backdrop to us talking, though.
Yeah.
Right?
So I finished. I've never actually finished this game, but that is not to say that I didn't play it enough for the review, because I actually played right to the end, and the build that we had glitched. I couldn't get any further.
Oh.
I got right to like this ending section, and the event that was supposed to trigger to move me on in the story didn't trigger, which was a problem that we had sometimes when we were reviewing games for EGM, because of course we had like a 1 and 1.5 month lead time, and sometimes games were coming in hot, and we just didn't. The builds we had didn't necessarily work perfectly. So we. This game in particular, I got right to the end, and I ended up talking to Square Enix's PR. I think it was Sonia Im that I was talking to at the time. And I think it was her, but so one of them anyway did, or Kyoko maybe. And they said, yeah, you're right at the end of the game. And that wasn't supposed to happen, and don't know what to tell you. I went back to earlier saves, and just nothing worked.
That sucks. And sometimes the save data format would change between like preview and review as well. That happened.
I am really lost here, CJ.
Well, I don't know what to do. Let me read a little bit from the Wikipedia page on Chrono Cross. Talk about the development a little bit. Square began planning Chrono Cross immediately after the release of Xenogears in 1998, which itself was originally conceived as a sequel to the SNES game. Chrono Trigger's scenario director, Masato Kato, had brainstormed ideas for a sequel as early as 1996, following the release of Radical Dreamers. Of course, Radical Dreamers, well, you wouldn't have, because it was, I think, a Satellaview sort of side tale.
Yeah, I think you can get it on like bootleg cartridges now, though.
I think you can.
And I kind of wish I'd done that.
Correct.
I've never done that, and I was meant to.
Yeah. Square's managers selected a team, appointed Hiromichi Tanaka producer, and asked Kato to direct and develop a new Chrono game in the spirit of Radical Dreamers. Kato thought Dreamers was released in a, quote, half-finished state and wanted to continue the story of the character Kid. Kato and Tanaka decided to produce an indirect sequel.
Oh, interesting. So Kid, by the way, anyone who's watching the YouTube broadcast here, is the female in the party right now.
That's right.
I did not know that she was from Radical Dreamers.
Mm-hmm. Yes. They acknowledged that Square would soon re-release Chrono Trigger as part of Final Fantasy Chronicles, which would give players a chance to catch up on the story of Trigger before playing Cross.
Mm-hmm.
Kato thought that using a different setting and cast for Chrono Cross would allow players unfamiliar with Chrono Trigger to play Cross without becoming confused. The Chrono Cross team decided against integrating heavy use of time travel into the game, as they thought it would be, quote, rehashing and cranking up the volume of the last game. Masato Kato cited the belief, there is no use in making something similar to before, and noted, we are not so weak nor cheap as to try to make something exactly the same as Trigger. Accordingly, Chrono Cross is not Chrono Trigger 2. It doesn't simply follow on from Trigger, but is another different Chrono that interlaces with Trigger. Kato and Tanaka further explained their intentions after the game release. So, it's not Chrono Trigger 2, which I think everybody wanted. Everybody in the West, anyway.
Yeah. Okay, I don't really know the battle system here, when I choose to fight somebody, I can choose attacks, but it's like I have a certain amount of time to do it. Interesting. You can see the field effect thing up there is actually changing color. It's yellow and then red. I don't know if I'm affecting that yet.
Interesting.
This is also the very beginning of the game, obviously.
That's true. You're very right about that. So you were the previews editor.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you if you were reviews editor. I didn't remember at the time why you assigned this game to yourself.
No, Mark McDonald would have assigned it to me.
Well, why did you want to be on this game?
I've mentioned on the show before, I was a big Japanese RPG fan. These are Japanese RPGs were like my genre of choice from the first Final Fantasy, probably right up until I had kids, to be honest, which would have been 10 years ago. And it had everything to do with just not having the time anymore to play them, to put the time in.
Right.
But yeah, I played every Japanese RPG I could get my hands on back in the day. So I think you'll find if you go back in EGM, I was on a lot of these RPGs until I got so busy to the point that I didn't have time. But yeah. Yeah.
When you're reviewing an RPG, you have to spend an awful lot of time, right? Like, it's an investment.
Oh yeah, it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Especially if you're the big reviewer. So at EGM during this time, the person who was the big reviewer who did most of the text, they really had to spend the most time with the game, right?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that Mark, and I didn't work at EGM before that, but one of the things that Mark brought to that role was that Mark was a insanely detailed editor. And you'll probably remember this, CJ, because we used to get what you would call when you were working in a magazine before it was published. At one point, you would get what we call proofs, because we didn't work on a network, but you didn't need like shared documents and things like that as much as you would today. And so you get these basically large paper printouts of each spread in the magazine, and that was what Mark would run through, and he'd have this red pen, and he was merciless in his edits. But one of the things that he kind of brought to it was like, yeah, as the big reviewer, you had to be the expert on the game, so you kind of, along with him, would make sure that nobody was saying something that was contradictory to what the actual game was about.
Sure.
I think maybe we had one time when that happened, which was like a Game Boy Advance game, but it was because they took a battery backup at one point. We had to do a recall on that review. But yeah, so if you were the big reviewer on an RPG, I mean, you were expected to try to finish the games no matter what. But if you were the big reviewer on an RPG, you were the one who had to know everything about the game. By the end of the 2-week span, you had to review it. So it's one of the things that we've always talked about on the show, and this is a great example of that, is that you tore through these games. Like, you did not stop to smell the roses at all. Like, you didn't get to stop to really appreciate what you were playing so much. You just tore through them as fast as you could.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely did with this.
Yeah. And you didn't get to the end, but you got close.
I got as close as I could before the build crapped out on me.
Yeah. And this was different, too. Like, really old school EGM, where each game had 4 reviewers. All of the text was the same size. So you didn't really have a main reviewer at that point. So when we switched it, it was a decision that I remember we spent a lot of time on, like, how were we going to change that, because having 4 people on each game, at a certain point, it was just untenable. Like, we would have to request multiple copies of each game from a publisher, and having 4 people do it was just crazy. Mm-hmm. So we switched it to having 3 people do it, and having one of the reviewers do a longer text bit on it. So you didn't have something like just another karate game or anything like that happen.
Yeah. I mean, that was
you'd have somebody own it.
That was a product of the industry just growing, right? Because you remember when EGM got to sort of those like Bible length issues, they would have an insane number of reviews. Because back in the day, there were 4 people who were supposed to review every single game. And, I mean, dark secret, after a while, it wasn't those same 4 guys reviewing those games, even though those were the names you saw.
That's true.
There were people ghostwriting a lot of those reviews because, honestly, there wasn't enough physical time in a month to review all the games they were reviewing. So yeah, that was one of the other things that I think was introduced before I got to EGM, but this was sort of the next evolution, was that you didn't have the same 4 people in every review after a while. The review crew grew, and then, we reduced it to 3. I think didn't they reduce it to 2 after a while as well?
I don't recall that.
No? Okay.
Maybe.
We also did, like, the Mike Wygand reviews earlier on. Major Mike, was he called?
Yes.
Like, that was sort of, and here's one single guy reviewing all the little games we don't have time for. Although you look back and some of the games that they didn't have time for were, like, big games. But we kept doing that as well.
They still got 4 scores, didn't they? Or did they not?
They sometimes did. But, like, one of the things that we did in our era was, we had, like, the single review games. And actually, Ethan Einhorn kind of got his start doing that for us.
That's true.
He would just... It's like, here's, like, 50 Game Boy Color games that nobody has time to play this month. You review all of them.
Yeah, and imagine a magazine or even a website now trying to review every game that came out.
It would be nuts.
Even like kids games.
Yeah.
It would be impossible. And when you had a game that was on multiple systems, that got a little dicey too, especially if there were differences in between them. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes we'd only review one of those and then mention that it was also on the other systems, but then not go into what was different.
But that was the thing, because right up to like the PlayStation 2 and Xbox GameCube era, you would have games that were called the same game released across all 3 systems, and they weren't the same.
That's
so you had to be careful about that. Like, I remember one of my favorite games is Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2, and the PlayStation 2 version was created by a company called Black Box that EA eventually bought. And it was a fantastic game, but they did not do the ports for the GameCube and the Xbox, and the game really suffered for it. So if we hadn't covered those all, then our review would have been wrong. If we'd said, hey, this is great on all 3 systems, it would have been completely false. So
that's right.
It was a lot of work. Doing reviews back then was a lot of work.
It's true. So what's the difference in your mind between a 9, a 9.5, and a 10 in EGM?
I mean, a 10, I don't know how many games ended up getting, like, perfect 10s. It wasn't a lot by the time I left. I think we might have been... I don't think we even were up to 10 at that point. I could be wrong. But, I mean...
I gave out a few 10s.
A 10 was meant to be sacred. Like, the way that we were taught, anyway, was that, like, you give a 10 to something that is an all-time classic. Like, Mario 64 gets a 10.
Right.
Ocarina of Time gets a 10.
It was also that we should not shy away from it, because there was a time when this might have been before you started, where 10s were really rare, where it was like
There was a time the 10 didn't exist.
Well,
but yeah.
Yeah. But we started giving out more of those. I gave a 10 to Oracle of Ages and Seasons,
which totally deserved a 10.
Yeah. And at least one other Zelda game I gave a 10 to. I don't think I gave a 10 to Mario, Luigi's Mansion. I think I was a 9.5 on that, or a 9. But anyway, let's get back to Chrono Cross. I want to read some of the tweets that we got from people discussing this game. All right. Hacker alias Arvis Jagamar says, "Holy crap! My question." He was saying "holy crap" to the fact that we were doing this episode, this pilot. "My question: the soundtrack better than Triggers?"
They're both really, really good.
Yeah.
I think I probably like this a little bit more. Maybe not. I don't know that I like the tunes more, but I love the fidelity of this soundtrack more, because you can hear it if you're watching this on YouTube. Hopefully you can hear it. It's all instrumental. It's all, well, maybe it's not real instruments. Maybe it's a synthesizer. I don't know, but it definitely sounds better than a Super Nintendo sound chip.
Yeah,
because it's Redbook. It sounds like Redbook audio. So I think I would say I prefer Trigger or Cross. Ugh, I prefer Cross.
I was gonna say
Trigger, but Trigger had great music too.
Trigger did have great music.
But this game has one of the best tunes in the intro I've ever heard.
Oh, definitely. Around this time, during a Japan trip, I got to visit Yasunori Mitsuda's studio.
Nice.
And I wish I had the audio or like any photos from that. I have his business card, and that's it. That's my only souvenir from that. But all right, Hacker alias Donald Mick says, "Is it fair to say the Chrono Cross is a good game that's also a terrible sequel?"
I wouldn't call it a terrible sequel. I think it was unfair to call it a sequel. Like I think that was the biggest problem, is that you talk about it being even a pseudo sequel to one of the most beloved RPGs. And you remember, like on the Super Nintendo, the RPG market wasn't huge, but it was small, and it was extremely passionate and extremely loyal. And you're talking about one of like the easily top 3 games of that generation as far as RPGs go, and to even hint that this is connected really set the expectations for this game way too high. It's a good
especially
game.
In the West, I feel like, because you're right, we didn't get a whole lot of RPGs during the Super Nintendo time. We didn't have Radical Dreamers, so we didn't have that sort of backstory there. Right. And we basically got the cream of the crop from RPGs, right? Like, and it's it was a beloved RPG, and I don't know if that was the same sort of response that it got in Japan, but because we didn't have the Radical Dreamers backstory, and because we only had Trigger, I think a lot of people were like, "Oh, this is a new Chrono Trigger game. Yes. I want it to be the sequel," and it wasn't. Yeah. Maybe they'll give Chrono Trigger the Secret of Mana treatment and do a remake of that.
That would be cool.
Or connect these two games more than they are currently, which isn't even that much. Maybe thematically they're connected, but that's it.
Something I just realized I'd forgotten about this game: you can walk away from people while they're still speaking to you.
I like that.
And their text boxes continue to play until it seems like you're out of range.
Oh, okay.
Like
you can just leave. So they're telling you.
Well, now I can't move, but normally I've been able to.
Maybe this is an important story.
This guy's important. Yeah.
Yeah. Hacker alias Super Cambot says, "If this game were released today, would it have been called Chrono X, as in like Chrono Cross?"
Oh God.
Get it?
I totally didn't get that when I read that tweet earlier.
I know. All right. Hacker alias Riskman64. How do you feel about the Chrono Cross soundtrack? To me, it might be the one area in which the game surpasses Trigger.
So just a big hint here. The more you live, the more you might wonder about the other you that might have been. That's very important to this game.
All right.
Sorry, say that again.
How do you feel about the Chrono Cross soundtrack? I think we already kind of talked about that. To me, it might be one area in which the game surpasses Trigger.
Yeah, for sure. I think you could argue that for sure.
It's a great soundtrack for sure. This one from Hacker Alias Guillaume NWR. Do you feel this game has had any lasting impact? Were any of its ideas adopted by later RPGs?
I mean, I haven't played it in so long, I couldn't tell you. The battle system, despite the crazy, the crazy description that you read in the original review, the battle system is still relatively simple compared to what JRPGs became.
Seriously,
I kind of wish that it had a greater influence.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, see, look, I can walk away from this guy while he's still talking to me.
I would love it if we went back to simple RPG battle systems. I like the Dragon Quest games because they kept it simple. They still keep it simple. And I play those as often as they come out. But Final Fantasy completely lost me, and basically any of Square's RPGs have lost me.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the other reasons why I feel like I would still be more into JRPGs if I felt like it was something that I could jump in and grind a little bit and, yeah. Like, I feel like games like this and Grandia is another good example of, like, right around where battle systems were just about right for me. Because there's a little bit of strategy involved, but there wasn't, like, a million different systems you were paying attention to. Everything still made sense sort of at a glance, as opposed to, oh, how does that work? And reading up on that and how it's linked in like 5 different ways to all these different systems. And that's just not for me because I don't have the time to, put into that. And then also, I honestly play so sporadically sometimes that I don't have the time to jump into a game where I have to figure that all out again.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some of these RPGs around the PS1 era, if you take any time off, like if you take a 2-week hiatus from playing, you're lost.
Yeah.
What was I doing again?
I feel like sort of when you got into the NIS stuff in particular, like Disgaea and things like that, those games just completely lost me.
Yeah.
Apparently, I'm going to get some Komodo dragon scales.
Nice. Hacker Alias Richrad says, really liked it at the time despite the dubious Chrono Trigger connection. Almost unplayable now. Needs a Final Fantasy XII style remake.
Is it beloved enough to do that? I don't know.
I think Chrono Trigger would get the remake.
Yeah.
First.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Then we'll wait until the PlayStation 1 Classic to talk about remake or re-release of this. All right, Hacker Alias 9 Attack 09 says, how many death threats did Sewart get at the time? Any memorable ones? Also, was the Chrono series ever good? I mean, really?
I had one email that was sent that threatened my dog. I didn't have a dog.
I was going to say, I don't remember.
But if I had a dog, its life was in danger.
Huh.
So,
I
yeah.
checked. There is an archive on the internet, because of course there is, of Rec Games Video Sony.
Oh, wow, really?
Which, if you remember Usenet news groups,
I
existed.
remember.
And if you do a search for Chrono Cross Greg Sewart or Chrono Cross EGM, this will come up.
Really?
And one person, like, I think jokingly asks for your head.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, that's Mark McDonald's fault.
I remember in E3, I think it was. I forget. I think we were at the Sony press conference after this, where someone came up to you and asked you about the Chrono Cross review.
Yeah, well, I mean,
jokingly.
As an example, this was in September 2000 was when this review was published. I left EGM in late 2003, and I think I was doing reviews into 2004. One of the last emails I got While I was freelancing, one of the last emails I got that had to do with the magazine was someone making reference to this review and like bitching at me for costing this game a platinum.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, people didn't let it go. You don't want to cross Squaresoft fans.
That's true. And this was really before
bunch.
The internet really got crazy. I mean, if this was today that you were costing it an award, you'd have YouTube reaction videos, probably.
Yeah, exactly.
You have a lot of that.
I totally just screwed that up. I remember this now. I'm supposed to chase this dragon and cut off his escape. Chasing the dragon here, CJ. Chasing the dragon.
Do it. Do it. Chase the dragon. It's time to chase the dragon. Hacker Alias Radical Defect says, I prefer Chrono Cross to Trigger. Writing is deliciously nihilistic, unafraid to make Trigger feel pointless, and the soundtrack is timeless.
Agree with all that.
Yeah.
I am not catching this guy at all.
No. You got to press the run button?
I'm holding the run button. It's over here.
Do you need to equip some kind of boots to make you run?
That was always the problem with these games that have the 2D backgrounds, is sometimes it's not totally easy to see which way you can go. Oh,
that's
I
true.
just left Lizard Rock. Okay.
All right. Hacker Alias Cheap Cheapo says, would you play a remaster of Chrono Cross?
Sure. As much as I would play a remaster of anything. I mean, you know.
Sure.
Well, there's how I get down there.
Are you going to play the Secret of Mana?
You know what? Little bit of an admission here. I've never played through Secret of Mana.
Me neither.
Yeah, so I might.
I've never played Secret of Mana at all.
I played through the original game, which came out here as Final Fantasy Adventure on the Game Boy. Played through that multiple times.
Okay.
That was the first Seiken Densetsu game, was actually a Game Boy game.
That's right.
But no, I've never played through Secret of Mana. Or Secret of Evermore, although I know that's not related in any way.
Right.
Sure, I'd play that. Why not? I'd play a remake of this. I'd try it out.
Yeah. Okay.
I wish I knew what I was doing in this battle system.
Yeah. So this is the beginning of the game. This isn't an old save of yours or anything like that.
No, I couldn't find an old save of mine, unfortunately.
That would have been fun.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of when the PS3 came out, you know, they had that thing you could buy where its only function was to transfer your saves from the PS1 or the PS2. Wait, what was it? It transferred everything.
Was it a Dex drive?
No. It was a Sony thing, like a little
right. It was
dongle.
like an official thing, right? Yeah.
But it was like $30.
Mm-hmm.
It was like 30 or $40, and its only function was for you to transfer the stuff, and then it had no other use.
Right, because
once that stuff was saved to the hard drive,
because the
what were you
PS3
gonna do
doesn't
with
have memory card slot.
Yeah.
Right.
So
these things
this was released as a greatest hits.
Yep.
Release later on.
I think for the most part it did pretty good for Square.
Yeah. So upon its release in Japan in 1999 and North America in 2000, Chrono Cross received critical acclaim, earning a perfect 10.0 score from GameSpot.
What
the
a
game
GameSpot
shipped.
know.
I know. I wonder who reviewed it for them. Probably Sam Kennedy, right?
You're probably right.
The game shipped over 1.5 million copies worldwide, leading to a greatest hits re-release and continued life in Japan as part of the Ultimate Hits series. Chrono Cross was later re-released to the PlayStation Network in Japan in July 2011 and in North America 4 months later. So I guess you can get this on the PS3 as part of the PS1 thing. And probably Vita at that point, too.
What in the world do you do here? We're not going to get out of this section in this game.
I don't think so.
What else we got? You got some more tweets there?
That was it for tweets, but
Really?
if anybody in the chat wants to
You got 20 minutes to kill.
throw us a question. This is a pilot episode. It's people expect it to be rough, right?
People like it rough. How in the world do I get down there?
So in 2001, Hironobu Sakaguchi revealed the company's staff wanted to develop a new game and were discussing script ideas. This is after Chrono Cross shipped. Although Kato was interested in a new title, the project had not been greenlighted. Square then registered a trademark for Chrono Break worldwide, causing speculation concerning a new sequel.
I want to say I remember reading about that.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Nothing materialized, and the trademark was dropped in the United States on November 13th, 2003, though it still stands in Japan and the European Union. Kato later returned to Square Enix as a freelancer to work on Children of Mana and Dawn of Mana. Mitsuda also expressed interest in scoring a new Chrono Series game. In 2005, Kato and Mitsuda teamed up to do a game called Deep Labyrinth, and again in 2008 for Sands of Destruction, both for the Nintendo DS. The February 2008 issue of Game Informer ranked the Chrono Series 8th among the top 10 sequels in demand, naming the games steadfast legacies in the Square Enix catalog and asking, what's the damn holdup? All right. In Electronic Gaming Monthly's June 2008 retro issue, writer Jeremy Parrish cited Chrono as the franchise video game fans would be most thrilled to see a sequel to. I mean, it's only 2 games. Is it really a franchise?
I think people would be most thrilled to... Look at that. I found a way to get that chest up here. I think it's I think people would be more excited to see an actual Chrono Trigger.
Like an extension of that game.
Yeah.
Like a remaster, remake, and expansion of that game.
Yes.
I think you're probably
my
right.
large ore is made from a giant fish bone.
All right.
Just so you know, CJ.
Sure. In the May 1st, 2009 issue of Famitsu, Chrono Trigger placed 14th out of 50 in a vote of the most wanted sequels by the magazine's readers.
Yeah.
That's interesting. At E3 2009, Square Enix Senior Vice President Shinji Hashimoto remarked, if people want a sequel, they should buy more.
Just get another job.
That's like, what is it, Tabata said recently about the Metroid game that's coming out in a few weeks. If you want to see more 2D side-scrolling Metroids, buy this one.
Yeah, no.
It's always a good call to action.
Yeah.
I think.
Tell people they're not supporting you enough.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, it makes sense, but how in the world do I go anywhere in this level? Holy...
I don't know. Does anybody
stick.
in the chat want to help poor Greg out?
He's coming this way. Ah!
You're never going to catch that dude.
I have to catch 3 of them.
What?
I know.
This is when video games were too hard, I think.
Yep.
We're learning.
I need a game genie.
Miguel Manalo in the
I'm catching him.
Chat says trap the lizard in that cave.
That's what I tried to do.
It sounds so easy. Oh.
Yeah, I've got him.
Okay.
Except I keep missing. It's one dead Komodo dragon. No. So yeah, you know what? The fun part about this, actually, in the years following the review, which is hung around for forever, obviously.
Sure.
People on NeoGAF still bring it up sometime.
Yeah, there was a GAF thread about disappointing reviews.
Is there really?
Yeah.
God damn it.
This was a long time ago. This was like 7 years ago. But I dug it up.
Doesn't make me feel any better.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. I've had old reviewers come back and say, yeah, you gave the game too high a score.
Too high?
Yep. They said it was not worth a 9.5. And I'm going to go ahead and oust someone here. Shane Bettenhausen is one of those people.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, what's this? What am I doing? I think I've discovered something here. I climbed a tree.
All right.
This game has that great PlayStation 1 dithering.
I love that. Yeah, when you go into a battle, it like
Yeah.
does that. Yeah. Yeah, Metal Gear Solid had a ton of that too.
Yes.
We're just gonna hide the fact that the animation in this it doesn't look all that great by blurring it.
Yeah.
That makes total sense. Yeah. So how come you're only Surge now? You don't have a
It's the
party.
start of the game.
Oh, okay. But you had a party before.
Yeah, but that was sort of a prologue, I think. That it's one of those things like later in the game you get to that point again. You play through that section again.
Oh, really? Okay. That's interesting. I do like it in games when they like when you start off and you're all powerful and you get like kind of a hang of things without having to worry about dying, and then something happens and they strip you of all your power and you have to start over again.
Yeah, it's always fun.
Nice video game trope that I appreciate.
Oh, there we go. Damn it. Ah. Sorry, I shouldn't be cursing.
It's all right. So this
Okay,
game
I'm
has
gonna get
parallel
this one.
worlds in it instead of time travel.
Yes. Yeah. And there's a big spoiler that if you go check out the page of the EGM review, you will figure out inside of a minute, because all you have to do is look at the big screenshot that I posted.
Why
Ruining
did you,
video
did you,
games
Did you
since
choose that
2000.
screenshot as the big shot? And why
Oh,
did
yeah.
you do it? Why?
Because I never even thought about the fact that it was a huge spoiler.
Are you saying back then we never really thought about spoilers? This is,
I think we
like,
did.
new?
I think we did.
But what about our pretentious answer in that letters column?
That was kind of a dick answer.
That was kind of a dick answer.
Yeah.
I feel bad about that. Retroact.
No, I felt really bad about that that screenshot. When I got that letter, it's like, oh man, I never even thought about that, and now I feel terrible. Like, that's totally true. But, you know, c'est la vie.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to get this guy this time.
Jonathan in the chat says that one that keeps running into the water, you can approach it from behind so it doesn't dive in
That's
scared. Aren't you doing that? Yeah.
Head north and trap the remainder of the cave by pushing the rock before pursuing it. But how do I push the rock before pursuing it? It runs the second it sees me.
I'm not sure. Yeah, turn your PlayStation upside down.
Yeah, boy, those were the days.
Indeed. All right, Miguel in the chat says favorite area in the game, non-spoiler.
I don't remember the game well enough. I didn't realize it had been so long.
Yeah, 17 years.
There we go.
This game came out.
God,
Quite a while ago.
We were just pups 17 years ago.
I know. Oh my god.
Young punks.
Yeah. I'm going to PAX West later this week, and oftentimes I see people that we worked with who are still in the industry in various parts, and it's amazing how long I've known some of these people.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I've known you for 20 years.
It's ridiculous.
Or in Chris Kohler's case, like 25 years.
You know him from the fanzine days, right?
Yeah. He on Twitter he pasted a picture of an envelope I sent him a letter in, and I wrote Smashing Pumpkins song lyrics on for some reason.
That's hilarious.
Like, what was that? I was like 14, 15.
Oh my God.
It's weird. And we knew Patrick Klepek, big time Waypoint Vice writer.
Yeah, well,
Patrick
I mean,
Klepek.
man, we knew Patrick Klepek when he was knee high to a grasshopper.
It's true.
We used to go hang out with him at his parents' house. Play DDR. Actually, it's pretty creepy.
Right. That is pretty creepy.
Yeah.
Think of it.
But no, Patrick
In
was
hindsight.
because Patrick jumped onto the Gaming Age bandwagon
Yeah.
back in the day when he was like 14. Gotcha.
That's right. He did some freelance for EGM at that time too, right? Didn't he?
That was a while later.
Okay.
Patrick actually joined Gaming Age when I was still running it with Sam Kennedy and Dave Toole and Jim Cordera, and Brady Fichter as well. And he was just a kid. And we actually let him go we didn't let him work for us for free anymore.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Here we go. Here's a big Komodo. Wow. That looks really good for a PlayStation 1 boss monster.
Oh. I'm just catching up with the stream now. Wow, that does look good. Huh. That looks like a Muppet.
It kind of looks like a Muppet. Ouch.
I like that font that they have for attack element.
Aqua Beam. This sounds powerful and painful. Oh, one. Oh.
One hit? You're dead?
I'm down to 1 hit point.
Oof. Oh, you have a cure element, so that's good.
Oh, he's hurt. You see that? He's actually stooping a little bit now. Keeps breathing on me.
Oh, there we go. You know what PS1 RPG I like? Final Fantasy IX.
Yeah, me too. We should do that sometime because we reviewed that game too.
We both reviewed that, I think. I think that sort of alternately goes in favor and out of favor with people on the internet, depending how Final Fantasy is regarded at that moment in time.
I reached a new growth level. Should probably get that
Nice.
looked at.
Yeah.
What do I play these days to scratch my JRPG itch? You know what? I was actually having tons of fun playing the Final Fantasy remakes that came out on the Game Boy Advance and then the 3DS, especially when they did Final Fantasy 3, the original Final Fantasy 3, the NES game. When they re-released that on the 3DS in full 3D, it was really, really good. Definitely one of my favorites, and it was so nice to be able to play it finally after years and years and years of, not having ever played it. And, they had released 2 a few years previous on PSP, played through that. So that's where I used to sort of get my fix. Nowadays, I just don't have the time. I would love to. Every now and then I attempt it, but it's never successful.
Yeah, I started playing I Am Setsuna on the Switch.
I'd love to play that.
It's a very old school RPG in the fact that, the battle system is very simple to comprehend.
It's not that long either, is it?
It's not that long, no, although I don't know how far into it I am. But it's also quite linear.
Right,
which I actually
kind of like.
I like. Yeah, exactly. I don't want a game like the recent Final Fantasies that have a bunch of side quests and it isn't clear exactly what your next step is supposed to be. That's kind of why I like the recent Dragon Quest games. They do this thing that sort of recaps what you did previously. I think Pokemon does that as well, where you can look at a log of what you were doing when you last played.
Yeah.
That's helpful. That's super helpful.
Yeah, totally.
So what classic RPG series would you want to see revived?
I'm kind of thinking in a PlayStation 1 sort of frame of mind here. And I think a lot of people don't really seem to remember. I mean, maybe that's not the case. But pre-Final Fantasy VII, there were some great RPGs on the PlayStation 1.
Alundra?
That really felt like an extension of what you saw on the 16-bit consoles. The Suikoden series.
Yep.
Wild Arms. Loved Wild Arms. Vandal Hearts was also one that I absolutely adored from Konami. Legend of Dragoon, someone just mentioned in here. I'd love to see any of those come back. I know Suikoden continued on, but I wasn't crazy about how it continued on.
Yeah.
But the first 2 games were fantastic games. All right, I'm going to head to Opasa Beach here. I know we're running out of time, but I'm going to continue the story a little bit for as much as I've been paying attention to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just like to see more old school RPGs.
Yeah.
I don't need to spend too much brain power on.
Sometimes I fall down a YouTube hole and like look at the cinematics from Lunar. I used to love that
There's a
game.
series I'd love to see come back.
It won't come back though, right?
No.
I mean, the chances are extremely slim.
Yeah.
But that was a really fun, or at least an RPG that sort of has that same feel to it would be fantastic.
Yes.
Tokyo RPG Factory, which is the arm of Square that did I Am Setsuna, is doing another game. And I forget what the name of that was, but I think they announced it around E3 time or something, but I think I've seen a trailer and it looks okay. I'm hoping that it sort of stays in that realm of old school revival RPG. That's the whole purpose of that offshoot anyway.
I Am Setsuna.
Yeah, I didn't buy it on any other console. I waited for the Switch version and then bought it.
I'd love to see them like maybe do other things, like especially when you have a console like the Switch. If they ever do any kind of virtual console type thing, although it doesn't seem like they are, if they get back into releasing games for other consoles, I'd love to see them not just release those, but like one of the things that I remember hearing about, and I never played these, but I believe this is how it works, is that like on the PlayStation 2, I think it was the Sega 2500 series or something like that, where they released old Sega games, and some of them were Genesis. When they got to Phantasy Star 2, they released it with an option to double the experience points gained. So it really eased up on the hardcore grinding required of the game. I would love to see someone do that with some more old school Japanese RPGs and re-release them on something like the Switch, so you could carry it around and play whenever you wanted. But like, taking it and playing it on a commute where you've got like 20 minutes to kill, like Phantasy Star 2 as an example doesn't really fit that mold, because in 20 minutes you really don't get much done. Whereas if you had that experience point boost, you could. So I'd love to see more classic RPGs come out with sort of those sort of options, and also save anywhere and things like that, which we usually do get. But yeah, I'd love to see something more like that.
Definitely. So as we're kind of wrapping up the hour now, I want to ask you about your score and what you think of your review with 17 years of knowledge after you wrote it.
I feel like my score is the one that holds up. and I'll tell you, I'll be honest, like the reason I say that is because we sort of started talking about this a little bit earlier in the episode, but 10s, and this kind of eased off after a while, but 10s, when I first got to EGM, which this was only my third issue, I think. This was 134.
Yeah.
I started at issue 131, and I was told a 10 is like a sacred score. You do not give out 10s. And even to the point that, especially when Mark was reviews editor, but also when Shu came in and took over as editor-in-chief, if you gave something a 10, it was investigated. Like
it was almost like Office Space in the TPS reports.
Yeah,
like,
you had to defend it. Like
you had
Mark
to really
would come at you. Yeah, Mark would come at you.
Shu.
Dan would come at you. The other people who were on the review would be consulted.
Yeah.
Especially if they didn't give it high scores or a 10. And later on, when Shane became reviews editor, same thing. Shane would really fight you over a 10. But it wasn't to be a dick. It was just because it was treated as a very special thing. A 10 from EGM was meant to be a supremely special thing and a very special game. And I really like Chrono Cross. But again, I think a lot of it had to do with my love of Chrono Trigger, and that I didn't see it as good a game as what it was supposed to be the sequel to. And it's just like, I also didn't see it as good as some other RPGs that I've been playing at that point. And it's just like, this is really good, but I don't think in like 5 to 10 years time I'll look back on this and say this is a classic that everybody should have played. I still don't think that. Great RPG. I still don't think it's something that, you know, oh, what are the 10 RPGs you have to play in your lifetime? This wouldn't make my list. So I stand by it.
What would that list be like? You don't have to name all 10, of course,
Oh,
but
man.
like, what other things would be on it?
Suikoden would be on it. Probably a couple of the Dragon Warrior games. I'm not sure which ones off the top of my head. Final Fantasy VI, Final Fantasy IV, Phantasy Star 4. Yeah. Lunar, definitely. The first
Grandia?
Lunar. Grandia, that would be at the edge. That would live right around Chrono Cross. Same thing. Very close, not necessarily top 10.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hey, Greg, thank you for joining me for this inaugural episode of Review.
This was fun. We should do this. Hopefully we get enough support to do this again next month. And you know what?
Yeah.
Forget Ethan and Phil. They don't do anything fun anyway. Let's
maybe we'll bring up one of their games in a future episode. You know,
yes.
anything that we reviewed is fair game.
Could do a full hour on Little Nicky.
Those Austin Power games for Game Boy Color.
Yep, a twofer. We could do a twofer.
Yes, indeed. That could be a lot of fun. I don't know.
All right.
But this was funded by our Patreon patrons, so thank you very much for donating to the show and for backing us. That this made that possible because in part I screwed up on the tier level where we would do an extra episode of the podcast. But hey, this is just an appetizer on what we might be able to do if we meet the goal next month, which I'm going to raise for next month. We'll see how that goes.
Well, so, I had fun. I'd love to do more of this because I love any excuse to sit down and chat about old games. That's, I mean, one of the things we kind of started doing when we first started Player One, and yeah, it's always fun to revisit the backlog.
Indeed. Alrighty, thank you for joining us, everybody, and we will see you next week in regular episodes of Player One, and maybe next month in another one of Review.
Bye-bye.
Bye.